It's Monday, November 28th, and this is what you need to know today. I'm Chris Graham, and what we have going on Augusta Free Press, the top story is an odd one to say the least out of California, of all places, and this does have a Virginia tie. A man who drove across the country to kill the mother and grandparents of a teen that he'd met online is a former Virginia state trooper. And in fact, I'm still waiting to verify. I think he was a current Virginia state trooper as he did this. Alston Lee Edwards, 28 of North Chesterfield, was assigned to the Henrico region of Virginia after graduating from the Virginia State Police Training Academy back in January. We reported back on January 24th on Augusta Free Press that he'd been assigned to Henrico County after graduating from the 135th Basic Training Academy. Well, he met a young teen online who turns out from California. According to police out in California, Riverside Police, Riverside, California is where this tragic series of events began to unfold on Friday morning. Edwards had catfished, if you're familiar with that term, the young teen. Catfishing, a term basically pretending to be someone online that you are not. Edwards, 28, drove across the country, got to the neighborhood of the teen in Riverside around 11 o'clock Friday morning, their time. So 2 o'clock our time here in Virginia. Parked his car at a neighbor's house, then went to the home. The young teen lived with her mother and at her grandparents' house in Riverside. We're not sure how he killed the grandparents and the mother in this case, but we just know that he did. And police are still holding those details close. But all three died. 69-year-old Mark Weineck, his wife, 65-year-old Sherry Weineck, and then their daughter, 38-year-old Brooke Weineck. And the teen was basically abducted from the scene. Also, the house was set on fire as Edwards and the teen left. And this all came to a head as a neighbor reported seeing the young girl looking uneasy as she got into the vehicle with Edwards. Edwards then fled the scene. Hours later, was involved in a shootout with police. He started firing at the SWAT team vehicle in San Bernardino County that was tracking him. I'm not sure of California geography to know how close he was to the original shooting scene, but the teen was able to escape when the vehicle he was driving stopped. And he apparently tried to shoot at the the San Bernardino County police helicopter before deputies fired at him, and he was dead at the scene. And the fire, as fire department officials were investigating the fire, and of course trying to put out the fire, not just investigating, but trying to extinguish the fire. The firefighters came upon the three dead bodies. So just a horrible tragedy. And again, we don't know a lot. This happened on Friday, but the tie to Virginia just becoming apparent in the last few hours. And so we'll be awaiting word, if we can get word from the Virginia State Police as to the how current Alston Lee Edwards may have been. Again, he just graduated from the police training academy back in January, and he had been a sheriff's deputy with a Virginia county prior to that. So horrible story coming out of California and with Virginia ties. So we'll keep our eyes on that. Gas prices are heading down, continuing to. It's kind of surprising, not really. After the elections, the gas prices were one of the key factors, supposedly, as voters were heading to the polls. High gas prices now down 12.4 cents a gallon last week. They're heading back to under $3 a gallon. Should be there before Christmas, according to Patrick DeHaan, head of petroleum analysis at Gas Buddy. We run weekly stories with tracking gas prices, at whether they're up or down with Gas Buddy. And looks like they're heading down. DeHaan says before Christmas, the national average should be below $3 per gallon. Right now in Virginia, it's $3.34 a gallon, and we're a good bit below where the national average was, like $3.50 or something a gallon. So Virginia may be there sooner rather than later. It's not even December yet, and we're already heading in that direction. And so that's obviously good news. It's also a little bit of bad news. A reason that the prices are going down is because of the expectations that there will be a recession. We've been hearing about the possibility of a recession all year long, but the futures trading is trending downward on gas prices, oil prices that lead to the gas prices that we see. So that's a factor. The When there's less economic activity, there's less demand for gas, and so prices, when demand supply curve, when there's less demand, there's as long as supply is constant, prices will go down, right? So that's what we have possibly going on here. But in the meantime, we'll take $3 a gallon gas, right? Considering we were close to $5 a gallon this past summer. Let's switch gears, talk some sports. Scott German had a nice piece for us yesterday, and we're still highlighting it today. Former University of Virginia quarterback Bryce Perkins got his first NFL start against the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday. Didn't go so well. The Chiefs won 26-10. Perkins threw for an even 100 yards, 13 of 23 passing. He did have some success running the ball, orchestrated a drive that actually got the game close in the fourth quarter before two fourth-quarter interceptions put the Rams on the wrong side of things. And it was, again, his first start in his career for Perkins, who played 2 years at Virginia, set some records, a lot of records at Virginia passing, total offense-wise. He was Virginia's until Brennan Armstrong broke the school record last year. He was the school record holder in passing yards, single season passing yards. Also was the leading rusher on the team in the 2019 Orange Bowl season. And he was an undrafted free agent, made the Rams roster as a rookie out of camp, and the Rams have kept on to him. And he's now in his third year in the NFL. He actually had his debut a couple weeks ago in mop-up duty for the Rams. The Rams won last year's Super Bowl, but have had injury issues at quarterback. Matthew Stafford, blanking here, the quarterback who won the Super Bowl with the Rams in his first season with the Rams last year, has been injured a good bit this season. And John Wolford, the Wake Forest former player, former ACC guy, if you remember him from a few years ago, he was the number 2 quarterback, and he's been injured the last couple of weeks as well. So Perkins getting his chance. I thought the game plan from Sean McVay was actually pretty interesting. He tried to keep it, try to run the ball, shorten the game, get the game in the fourth quarter, and then see if Perkins could then do some magic. And Perkins, again, he led the Rams on a 14-play, 75-yard drive through a touchdown pass on a fourth down to Tutu Atwell that made the score 20-10, and the Rams defense actually got the ball back, intercepting a pass from Patrick Mahomes in the end zone. But then a couple plays later, Perkins was intercepted, and the Chiefs closed things out with a couple of field goals to win that one 26-10. No word on the future status of Perkins. It's really obviously dependent on Matthew Stafford's future status as the QB1. But the Rams, after last year's Super Bowl, falling to 3-8 on the season, been a tough year for the Rams subsequent to winning the Super Bowl this past season. A tough year also. Scott had a nice piece for us as well on ACC football. Tough weekend for the ACC in football, also in basketball. Another piece that he wrote for us on that. Football had a chance. ACC football had a chance to possibly get somebody in the playoff. Clemson, after not making it last year, 6 straight years. I think that's right. 6 straight years Clemson had made the college football playoff, winning 2 national championships in that span. Last year, left on the outside looking in. And this year, after losing 31-30 at home on Saturday to South Carolina, a stunner, a 40-game home winning streak for Clemson snapped in that one. Now at 10-2, Clemson clearly is going to be way on the outside looking in. North Carolina also fizzling down the stretch after a 9-1 start, losing back-to-back games. Georgia Tech last weekend, and then this past weekend, most recent weekend, losing to NC State. So the 2 teams playing in the ACC championship game in prime time on Saturday night will be doing so coming in off losses. It'll be a big fizzle going into Charlotte coming up Saturday night. On the basketball side of things, Virginia is ranked number 3 in the country with lots of upheaval at the top of the polls. Number 1, North Carolina lost twice last week, fell all the way to 18. Duke, the number 7 team last week, lost Both those losses for Duke and North Carolina out at Phil Knight events out in Portland. Duke getting blown out by Purdue, held scoreless for the final 7:01 in a 75-56 loss. Purdue moving up from 24-5, Duke falling from 7-17. So Virginia is right now the highest ranked ACC team at number 3. Virginia will be on the road. First true road game for Virginia at Michigan coming up on Tuesday night, 9:30 late start in the ACC Big Ten Challenge. As it turns out, it'll be the last ACC Big Ten Challenge. News today coming from the ACC, ESPN, and the SEC that beginning next year, men's and women's basketball teams in the ACC and SEC will be competing in the ACC SEC Challenge. That's not a surprise that it's coming because the ACC is an ESPN media property. Let's just put it that way. The ESPN owns the ACC's media rights through 2036. The SEC is now an ESPN media property. And the Big Ten, which has been playing in the ACC Big Ten Challenge with the ACC since 1999 on the men's side and sometime in the 2000s decade on the women's side, the Big Ten is now a Fox Sports media property. So the ACC Big Ten Challenge after this week will be no more. It'll be an ACC SEC Challenge starting next year. And also ending will be the SEC Big 12 Challenge, which has been a one-day event mid-season, like more like towards late January or February each year. That one's also coming to an end after this year. So some news on that front. We'll have all the coverage you can imagine of UVA Michigan from tomorrow night. It'll be late, and then also during the day on Wednesday. But UVA first true road test. Maybe the last really tough game before a potential huge matchup. Well, it's going to be a huge matchup no matter what. But Houston ascended to the top spot in the AP Top 25 today. First time since 1983 that Houston is number 1 in the country. That dates back to the Akeem Olajuwon era for the University of Houston. Houston will play Virginia in JPJ. I believe it's December 17th, the first game back for UVA after the exam break. That could be if both teams hold serve, that could be a 1-2 or a 1-3 matchup. Texas is number 2 right now in between. That could really be interesting, but Virginia's got to get past Michigan tomorrow night, a tough one on the road. Juwan Howard and his group, a new team, sort of, a couple transfer players, a couple freshmen in the rotation. 5-1 start, but really not anything remarkable in those 5 wins, but they got a number 3 team coming to their house. So, they'll be on their game. Virginia also this weekend has Florida State. I think Florida State's 1-7 now. Amazing, horrible start for Florida State. Leonard Hamilton for many years has just been reloading. This year, it's not working out so well to this stage for Florida State. They'll be coming to Charlottesville on Saturday. Remember that one last year. Florida State hit a 3 from about 40 feet at the buzzer to that one effectively knocked Virginia out of the NCAA tournament consideration. When that 3 went down, you could hear a pin drop in JPJ. So if Virginia is able to get some revenge this weekend, that'd be nice. Also next Tuesday, then Virginia plays James Madison, a team that beat Virginia last year in Harrisonburg. So get through those, and the Houston game could be real fun coming up in a few weeks. Let's see, a little bit more sports news. I might as well talk some more sports. The U.S. men's national soccer team manager, I guess they go with that term, Greg Berhalter, was apologizing today for some reason. I know sort of the excuse he'll give for apologizing. The U.S. Soccer Federation's social media post over the weekend promoting the Team USA's involvement in tomorrow at 2:00. I think it's 2:00 tomorrow. The huge, basically knockout match between the U.S. and Iran. Iran and the U.S., the winner of that one will advance to the formal knockout stage of the 2022 World Cup. And the U.S. Soccer Federation, in promoting that match and Team USA's involvement in it, posted an image of a Iranian flag that did not include the central image of the flag, referring to the Islamic Republic, and that was to show solidarity for U.S. soccer with the millions of Iranians engaged in peaceful protest of the treatment of women. Berhalter decided today in a press conference to apologize for that. And basically even soccer guys are meatheads apparently. Um, and it, my initial reaction was to say that's going to diminish my enthusiasm for tomorrow's match, but the guy's under a lot of pressure. I understand that, but yet you don't need to apologize to Iran for anything. They need to apologize to the world and to their own people, as far as that goes. Sad situation all the way around. Speaking of sad situations, we've been reporting an awful lot in recent weeks on the horrible November 13th mass shootings at UVA that claimed the lives of 3 University of Virginia football student athletes, Devin Chandler, Lavelle Davis Jr., Sean Perry. And we had a piece over the weekend. It was inspired. I guess you can say inspired. I hate to say inspired, but this story in any way, shape, or form. But shopping the other night, I ran into a man at the Home Depot wearing a Virginia hat. I'm wearing a Virginia jacket, and the gentleman started a conversation with me, and quickly turned to the November 13th shootings, and he said, "Well, it's because the guy was getting bullied by the football team." And that's not the case, and it's it's something that, and this is a person who's apparently a UVA alum. His wife said, he said, "It's triple who," and it's the media narrative at play here. The media narrative is cast Jones as a former football player when he was involved with the team 4 years ago for a couple of weeks before leaving the team. He was attempting to walk onto the team and was not going to be successful, and wasn't, and it could see the writing on the wall and left. So, to call the guy a former football player is very much straining things. And to say he'd been bullied by members of the football team is straining things as well. The only reason that implication is even being made is because he said in an interview with the Cavalier Daily last year, when he was talking about how he was the president of a fraternity on grounds, that he felt bullied in high school. So he felt bullied in high school. Friends and family said he felt bullied in high school and into college. UVA Police Chief Tim Longo talked at the press conference the day after the shootings about there being an investigation into hazing involving Jones. People took that and ran with it, that he was being hazed. Now that we know that he was, I mean, of course we could have known then, but he was the president of fraternity. It could have been that the investigation into hazing had something to do with his fraternity service. And again, not casting blame at him or that fraternity, but that could have been a tie there as well. There's certainly more of a potential for a tie there than there is anything to do with football, considering the guy hadn't even been involved with football aside from those 2 weeks for 4 years, more than 4 years, actually, as it turns out. There's no known indication that this guy, Christopher Darnell Jones, now 23, had ever been acquainted with any of his 3 victims. He shot one of them as he slept. There was no indication the day of the field trip on which these a group of 22 UVA students and a professor and a bus driver, obviously, went to DC for a play and then a dinner together. There's no indication there was any interaction between his victims and Jones, the shooter. And so we examined that on Augusta Free Press, and it's worth a read. And I would implore folks who are watching this video or listening to the podcast version of this to share what you know with your friends and family, because I've been hearing this a lot. I got an email from someone, "Oh, well, football players aren't all angels, so I don't doubt that they were involved in something like this." This is we're going to find out probably not for a few months now, as investigators continue to try to piece together what happened on that bus trip and what happened in the weeks leading up to it, maybe the months and years leading up to it from Christopher Darnell Jones' side of things, to get ready for a trial. No trial date has been set as next court date. The next court date for Jones is early next month. And that would just be a plea hearing. He's been ordered held with no bond. That was the first hearing, which was a couple weeks ago now. But as investigators and then prosecutors get their hands on this case, we may learn some more as to the motivations here. We may not learn a lot more until then, unfortunately. But I think the last thing we need to do is cast aspersions at the people who were shot in the head. Literally, they were targeted for some reason. it didn't. None of the evidence indicates to me. Nothing of what we know now indicates to me that anything had to do with, other than this guy is just a guy that was a powder keg waiting to explode. He felt bullied all of his life. He tried several times to buy guns. He had a concealed weapons conviction on his record. Um, and then, wrong place at the wrong time kind of thing for the Devin Chandler, Lavelle Davis Jr., and Deshaun Perry. On that note, the Virginia football team the program in its entirety, was able to travel all over the weekend. Devin Chandler, let's see, actually, Deshaun Perry on Saturday was laid to rest by his family in Miami, and then Devin Chandler on Sunday, a memorial service held in his honor in Virginia Beach by his family. Lavelle Davis Jr. will have his family will have a celebration of life service for him this week. The members of the team, including the student athletes and trainers, coaches, were able to fly to Miami and then fly back to Virginia Beach because New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft loaned his team plane at no charge to the UVA football program to shuttle them to the funeral. So, that word is not news necessarily. Well, the Patriots plane landed at Charlottesville Albemarle Airport on Friday. Lots of sharing on social media about that, but just confirmed today that it was at no charge. And Robert Kraft had basically donated the use of the plane to UVA football. And what an act on his part. The Patriots had played Thursday night in Minnesota, so the plane was going to be sitting idle anyway. And what a great gesture on the part of Robert Kraft to help UVA football get all of its members to the services for two of their fallen athletes, and I assume the third one as well, Lavelle Davis Jr., which will begin midweek this week. So that's just one of those kind of things. Sometimes you see the good in people in bad situations, and this is certainly one of those. Kudos to Robert Kraft for his involvement there. And if I encourage folks who are tuning in here as we're getting ready to wrap up our Here's What You Need to Know segment today. Crystal Graham, staff writer, my wife, wrote a in-depth piece today on a group called the LifeWorks Project, a Waynesboro-based nonprofit that advocates for those who need assistance to live a better life. And a focal point for the LifeWorks Project has been supporting the homeless and those without transportation in Waynesboro, Stanton, and Augusta County. And this group, the LifeWorks Project, will be holding a hugs drive, hats, underwear, gloves, and socks initiative to distribute items to the unsheltered population, many of those who live in what we call Tent City. And actually, Crystal was able to make contact with someone who lives there in the homeless encampment. And Sarah Watson is her name. And Sarah Watson said that Tent City, what we know as Tent City, is known as Tentpocalypse by its occupants. And so really worth taking a look at that piece. Crystal's been doing a bang-up job lately of trying to highlight efforts to by various nonprofit groups to work with the unsheltered population here in Waynesboro. Our our next step is going to be to see if we can get the city to move in some direction on this. The city and maybe the state as well. I mean, it's the kind of thing where, I think there's an assumption on the part of a lot of people that people who are homeless, unsheltered, want to be that. They choose that for themselves for some reason. A quote from Sarah Watson kind of sums up how wrong we are about that. If you have that opinion, most everyone here, she said, was at one point, one time part of this very community. Our kids would have gone to the same school with yours, attended the same church, patronized the same shops. Maybe we were even neighbors. But due to many assorted circumstances, we landed here, homeless and hated by the same place we call home. And I think the hated part. Tentpocalypse, I guess we'll start calling it now because that's what the residents call it, is located just off of the Constitution Park in Waynesboro. Beautiful park, downtown Waynesboro. Before I stopped my running career, distance running career, I trained on the greenway that cuts through Constitution Park, and you'd see regularly, a number of folks who were homeless in that area. It was, that's because that Tentpocalypse is right there, and it's a beautiful area, and sometimes I'd see people leaving food for folks, bringing food. I shouldn't say leaving. It sounds like they just leave it and people come pick it up. No, there were actually deliveries that were coordinated, and I would see them as I was running back and forth on the Greenway training for marathons. And but also you certainly sense the hatred of for whatever reason of people who were homeless in our community here. And I mean, just remembering back to when the Greenway was being developed, the first time I remember writing about the Greenway even being a thought was in I think 1997 or 1998, and people who lived along the proposed Greenway route, which it still actually doesn't really cut through some residential neighborhoods as it had long been planned to do so, because residents said we don't want people in our backyard. We don't want homeless people in our backyards. It's 25 years ago, and it's just gotten worse over time. So yeah, they're certainly they're just like us. Obviously, they're just like us. They just had some bad situations happen. I've had many bad situations happen. Now things are great for Crystal and I, for Augusta Free Press. Rebecca Barnaby, our sports staff, we're all doing well. But I know in Crystal and I's case, we were launching Augusta Free Press way back in 2002, 20 years ago. We were living in my mom's house because we didn't have anything. We were broke, and we started this with nothing. And so in effect, we were homeless in a sense. Taking a room in the house I grew up in, the trailer park I grew up in. Let's be honest about that. And we go from there to where we are now. There, but for the grace of God, go I. And yeah, it's not worth it looking your nose down at other people. Let's help them out. So read that story about LifeWorks. Figure out ways you can be a part of the effort, be a part of the solution, not part of the problem. Let's see. Anything else we need to know today? I don't think so. I think that'll get you ready for tomorrow. Anyway, go to AugustaFreePress.com for the latest on news and sports and culture and everything else. For our staff, our far-flung staff, let's see, Roger Gonzalez, Scott German, Scott Radcliffe, Rebecca Barnaby, Crystal Graham. I'm Chris Graham, signing off. Have a great day.